Hey everyone, Chrissy at Pinovate. This tutorial is for our brass ring yarn art. I adore textiles, so I'm really excited about this one. So let's follow along and we'll make this together. All right, so your kit is very simple. You're going to have a brass ring, a skein of yarn, a little bag of wooden beads for the bottom, a darning needle, and the only other thing you're gonna need is some scissors. So make sure you have all of your supplies and we're gonna get started. All right, so the very first thing that we need to do is measure out our lengths of yarn that we're going to need. So I am actually going to take my yarn from the inside. This way it actually doesn't get tangled and raveled on each other. So I'm gonna pull out the center and find my end right there, okay? Now, with my end, what I want to do is I need to measure the length of the ring, and then I need to measure how long I want my tail. So I'm actually gonna make my tail quite long. I can always trim it later, but I wanna make sure that my tail's nice and long. If it's too short, I can't go back and fix it, but if it's too long, I can always trim it later. All right, so I found the length that I need my yarn, and I'm gonna pinch it at this point, fold it in half, and make it a double length. So I'm having two sides and it's bent in the middle. Okay, and then I'm going to trim at the end. So this is the length of yarn I'm going to need for the whole project. Now I need 16 strands this same length. So all I'm going to do is, once I've measured this one, I'm just going to use it as a little measuring tape and cut out 16 strands the same length. So I have cut my 16 strands of yarn to the length that I want. And now I'm gonna start attaching them to my brass ring. So using one at a time, I'm going to attach them with, this is a macrame knot. It's called the lark's head knot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the two ends together and I'm going to find the very center. I'm going to place this loop nice and flat on the top of my ring here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my fingers through this loop and I'm going to grab those tails and pull them through. So this creates its own knot and it is fully secure, and now you have two strands dangling. And I'm going to do this to all of the pieces of yarn that I have already cut. So again, I am finding the ends and matching them up. So now I have the center. I'm placing it on top of my ring. I'm putting my fingers into that top loop, grabbing those tails and pulling them through. So I have attached all 16 pieces of my yarn at the top of my ring using the lark's head knot. And if you take a look, you can see that there's this little horizontal line going across each of those knots. As long as they each have that little line going across, you know that they're all facing the correct way. So if you have any that don't have a line going across, you've just looped your lark's head knot the wrong way, you can pull that out and just flip it around. So just ensure that every single one of them is facing the correct way, and then we're ready to get started. All right, so we are ready to start creating our geometric pattern on the inside of our ring. And to do this, we are going to learn one other knot. So this is the double half hitch knot. And we're actually just going to secure our yarn to the bottom now. And the way that we do it, in the pattern that we do it, it creates that beautiful triangle on the inside. So the first step I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take all of my yarn and flip it onto the other side. So this is my working area. This is a very simple pattern. I'm going to start with my one farthest left hand piece of yarn. And I'm going to bring it down and create a double half hitch down here. So what I'm going to do is I lay my yarn on top and I'm going to bring it up around my hoop to the left. Okay, so it's going to loop up to the left, like that, okay? And then now I'm going to do the same thing, but on the right. So I'm gonna go underneath, loop it up around the ring, but this U, this little loop down here, I want to pull that tail through that loop, and it secures it on itself. Okay, so now that I've done the farthest left, I'm gonna go over to the right. I'm gonna find my farthest right yarn, and I'm gonna cross it over. So I'm gonna make an X and do a double half hitch on this side. So our yarn is always gonna be crossing on the center. So again, to create that double half hitch on the bottom here, I'm placing my yarn on top of the hoop, and I am swinging it up under to the left and down. And then the second part of the knot, I am going to swing it up and under to the right, but this tail is going to go through this little U that it has created. So I'm putting my tail through that U that I just created, and I am pulling it nice and tight. Okay, so I have another double half hitch, and it's secured to itself. So this is going to be the center of our triangle as we're working up, okay? So now that I've done my left and my right, I'm gonna go back and do my next left. And this is all gonna go on top of everything that I've already done. And I'm going to create a double half hitch down here. So this is going to, again, be over and up to the left and down, and then underneath to the right and through this little loop that I just made, and pull nice and tight. Okay. Okay, so I did left, back to the right side. My next piece, again, farthest side over here. Everything is just going to layer up through the center. So again, the half hitch is over. I'm going to loop this underneath to the left, okay, underneath to the right, and I'm going to put that tail in this little loop that I just created. So I'm pushing this tail into that loop and pulling. Okay, so you can see the layering starting to happen here. And all I'm gonna do is just continue in that exact same pattern. One from the left, one from the right, one from the left, one from the right. And that creates our geometric triangle. All right, so we have finished all of our double half hitch knots on the bottom. Very easy pattern, left and right, and we have this beautiful geometric triangle on the inside here. So you are welcome to adjust any of your yarn just by sliding it along the ring as needed to make the shape of your triangle as you desire. So once you have that where you want it, we are ready to move on. So we're on to the next step. We are going to add our wooden beads onto the very bottom of our ring here where all of our yarn tassels are hanging off here. So in your bag of beads, you're going to receive 13. We don't need all of them. We actually only need 11. You are going to need your largest bead, 2 of your medium beads, and 8 of the smallest ones, as well as your darning needle. So collect all of those and then we're going to get started. Once I have all 4 through there, I'm going to split my pieces of yarn into 2 and just tie a knot so my bead doesn't fall off. There we go. If you prefer to tie 2 knots, you're welcome to do that as well. I'm just going to start with 1. I can always adjust it later. So now we're going to keep going with the rest of our beads as well. So for our second bead, we're actually taking our medium-sized beads, and these are gonna go on either side. So again, I'm gonna find my 4 next pieces of yarn, and I'm going to thread these through each bead the exact same way. Okay, so once these are all threaded through, again, I'm just gonna split these into 2 and just make a little knot so my beads don't come out. Okay, so we've moved on from there, and now I'm going to be adding my smallest beads along each edge. So I have 4 beads on this side and 4 beads on this side. However, the number of beads to the number of pieces of yarn we have don't quite match up, so we're gonna split these slightly different. So I'm going to put 3 into my next bead, and then I'm gonna go 2, and then 3, and then 2. okay, on both sides. So 3 pieces, and then 2, and then 3, and then 2 for the next 4 beads. Okay, so I've done 3 pieces in that one. The next one is going to be 2. All right, my next bead will have 3. And then my very last bead will have the last 2. All right, so I finished that side. Now I'm going to do the same pattern on the other side. So I have all of my beads on my ring now. I just want to make sure that, again, everything is knotted on so it doesn't come apart. So with the beads with the 3 strands, I'm just going to split it into 2 and 1 and make a knot. And then if you wanted to do a second one, you're welcome to. So all of my beads are now knotted on there and are secure. Our last little step is we get to give it a bit of a haircut. So if you have any straggly pieces on the bottom, we're going to give them a trim. So you can either cut it straight across, you could cut it in the same kind of curve that the brass ring is in, you could cut it at an angle, into a V, whatever shape that you prefer. So I'm just gonna cut mine straight across, give it a little haircut. Thank you so much for following along. I hope you enjoyed making our brass ring yarn art together. I really love it. It's just so simple and elegant, and this will look great on a wall or as a gift. So we would love to see how your projects turn out. So please take a picture and tag us on Instagram at Pinovate and DIY Delivery. And if you get a chance, feel free to follow us. We are on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and Pinterest. We're on all the things. So thank you again for following along, and we'll see you soon.